Well, welcome again, everybody. And as we said, we're talking specifically about back, or sorry, hip pain today. We did talk a little bit about back a minute ago, but it's all connected. So even if you don't have hip problems, this will still hopefully be relevant to you since the whole body's connected. But um, so first off, kind of just our approach, and a lot of people ask us what's different about Egoscue. How is this? Is it the same as physical therapy, or it looks like yoga? What's different? I think one of the big things that's different about it is the way we look at pain, and that is that we believe pain is a signal from your body. So um, I like the analogy of this check engine light on your car, right? So light comes on, everything may seem to be working fine. Your car is still driving down the road. Maybe it's not, sounds normal, everything's fine, but this light comes on, right? So it's a warning. So we can either ignore the warning or we can investigate farther, right? Get it scanned, see what that light came on for. Um, and the pain is really the same thing. It's our body's way of telling us, okay, something's wrong, something's not doing what it's supposed to. You should pay attention to this. Doesn't necessarily mean anything's broken. I mean, it can. Obviously, when you cut yourself or you sprain an ankle or whatever, you're going to have pain. But a lot of times, the pain we have is an early warning signal that we need to pay attention to. So our approach then is to assess, why did that light come on? Why did that pain show up? And it's not always, the pain is not always the site of the problem. So you could have a problem in one area of your body, and it's just the way that everything's connected and the way you're moving is putting stress on another area, and that's where your pain shows up. So we have to step back and kind of take a global approach, look at the whole body and see how all the pieces are working together. And that's what we want to fix, so that that check engine light goes away. Instead of just, if we take a pain pill and forget about it, it would be the equivalent of just maybe covering up that check engine light with some tape, or just ignoring it, right? We didn't really solve the problem. We're just postponing it. So um, now a lot of people like to blame their pain on these things, especially age. When we're talking about hip pain, we hear this a lot, like, oh, I'm just getting old and my hip's worn out, or I've got a bad hip. My mom had a bad hip, my grandpa had a hip replacement, whatever. Um, so the, I mean, most of the time though, in those cases, one hip is worse than the other, right? Maybe you do have pain on both sides, but typically there's one side that has more problems than the other. So then you have to ask the question, well, why is that side hurting? They're both the same age, right? How old is your left hip? Your right hip's the old bad one, but so is your left. Why doesn't it not hurt, right? So once again, we have to go back to the cause, and we'll talk about that more in detail in a second. But really, we want a long-term solution to your pain. We got to actually treat the problem and not just blame it on these things that we can't change, right? You're not going to get any younger, can't change your genetics, and there's really no evidence that I'm aware of that there's any kind of gene for hip pain specifically, or most of these conditions. So we're all about posture. We talk about posture, alignment, balance, that kind of stuff. And it makes sense, at a basic level. This is a really simple concept, but it's true that when things are not lined up the way they're supposed to, it's not as stable, right? It's not as strong. It's more likely to break, or like, just like this building obviously isn't very structurally sound. The same applies to our bodies. If we're not lined up properly with those load bearing joints straight and horizontal level, and vertically, we're going to run into problems, right? So posture, as I mentioned, I like these definitions. It's a bit wordy, but basically it's just when the alignment of our joints is not where it was designed to be. So it puts extra strain or stress on really our entire body. We focus kind of on the muscles, the bones, the joints, the tendons, and that kind of stuff, but it really does affect other aspects of our body too. We won't really get into that a ton today, probably, but but it's all connected. So your posture can affect you pretty much anywhere. So good posture, on the other hand, is a state of balance, meaning the right and left side should be doing the same thing. We've got two legs, two hips, two shoulders, spine in the middle. Everything should line up with each other properly. Um, and the right side should move and function the same as the left side. So when it doesn't, that's when we run into the problems. And it's not just when we're standing. That's an easy way for us to measure it, just because it's easy to assess in a static posture, right? But when we talk about posture, you also have a sitting posture. You've got a squatting posture, a bending over posture, right? So just keeping that in mind. So our bodies are designed to move. That's really what it comes down to, is why we use exercises to correct these things, is because most of us are lacking in that. We're not moving our bodies enough. We develop these, imbalances where some muscles are maybe working just fine. Some muscles are potentially overworking because other ones are not doing their job. So we call that compensation, when one thing has to do a job it's not really designed for, to make up for something that's lacking. You can think back to when you were kids, and I'm sure all of us can remember a time when we were more active than we are now. We were playing, and it wasn't because it was like structured exercise. I mean, eventually we start to do that as adults, but when you were little, you just moved all the time, right? And that's how our bodies thrive. But unfortunately, we get jobs, or we go to school, and then we get jobs, and then we sit in cars, we sit on our couch, we watch TV, these modern comforts that are really not great for our bodies, because they encourage us to not move enough. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is promote a more active lifestyle, but also getting quality movement. And those are the exercises that we implement, are to kind of supplement the lack of movement and function that we're getting in our day to day. So in summary, if we want to address our pain, like I said, we need to figure out what's causing it, and not just treat the symptoms, but treat the cause. So pain medication, usually not treating the cause, right? Can be very helpful and sometimes necessary. Surgeries, same thing. Maybe sometimes there is some tissue that's irreparable, or broken, that needs some surgical intervention. And we're definitely not against that. But something we'll talk about hips more in detail, like a hip replacement, for example. If you're not addressing the reason that hip became worn out or degenerative in the first place, then even with a new hip, you're going to have the same muscle patterns, the same posture when you're done with that surgery, even though your hip is new. So that's just ultimately going to lead to probably problems on the other side, or in a different joint, your back, your knee. So
I always like to use that car analogy, where if your car is out of alignment and you're driving it down the road, and if you just keep replacing the tires, you're going to be wearing through lots of tires over the years and paying a lot of money for a lot of different sets of tires. But if you just correct the alignment of the car, then you know you got to the root cause, and now you don't have to spend all this money on all these extra tires.
yeah.
And that's exactly what Egoscue is like as well. Hmm.
So these other options, right? We can go sit on a beach and relax, and that may actually give us some temporary relief, right? There's definitely something to be said for our stress levels and how that impacts our pain, but we can't be on vacation all the time. Eventually, we have to take care of um, business, and whether that's our families, our work, or our house, or pets, whatever, we need to be able to move and stuff. And then the last option here is this poor sad baseball player is on the bench because of pain, I'm assuming. And I was in that same boat. I remember feeling kind of worried, like 20 something years old, and starting to have pain already that potentially could have kept me from playing the sport I really liked. So now I only hurt when I was playing racquetball, so I could have just given up racquetball and felt better, at least temporarily. But as many of you know, that's not a road you want to go down, because eventually, maybe I'll pick up something else, and then that starts to hurt. So then I'll try something else. And eventually you kind of run out of options. And at some point you're like, well, I can't do all these things. And it's not a very fulfilling life, right? So rather than giving things up, we want to, maybe you do have to take a break. It's not to say that if you're hurting during a particular activity, you shouldn't stop it maybe for a while, but let's, fix the body, fix the posture, get you back to feeling and moving the way you're supposed to, and then you should be capable of doing just about anything. So all right, Kelly, why don't you talk to us a little bit about hips, and then I will talk about some symptoms with how your posture is related to that. So
All right. So hips, right? I'm assuming a lot of us have had hip tension, tightness, maybe pain, ache, burning sensation, right? Maybe some people have some tingling stuff kind of going through their backside from the sacral area down like the backside of their hips, down the legs. And when we really think about hip anatomy and all the things that have to do with the hips and the legs, we have to really start thinking about, well, how would these bones get out of alignment? What controls the bones? Well, your brain tells the muscles tell the bones what to do. So if you've had a habit, a lifestyle, a accident and injury, a activity level that you do repetitively over time, and the brain's telling the muscles, we're doing this motion over and over and over and over and over again over time, and then it builds up a muscular compensation, right? Because it's a one-sided sport, tennis, racquetball, um, you know, baseball, golf, right? Biking is gonna round the body forward and shorten the pelvis, right? And kind of pull that thigh bone up towards the chest when you ride that bike. So it shortens all the muscles. And so over time, when you do these repetitive motions and you train these muscular habits, the muscles move the bones. And so when the bones get into positions and they get stuck and locked and tight in there because they never get realigned, restretched, reset in relationship to the rest of the joints in the body and the rest of the muscles in the body, then what happens is you can see that ball and socket in there, right? It's meant to flow easily in there and to go from front to back and to rotate the knee in and out, right? There's quite a bit of range of motion that can actually happen in the hip joint, like compared to the elbow joint or the knee joint, right? Those are kind of the most limited ones that we have in the body. And so what happens over time is when those stuck habitual patterns get in there, that nice smooth flow of that joint moving back and forth, it gets jammed in there or impinged or stuck at the wrong angle in the socket, and over time it rubs and grinds and wears and tears. Okay. And so that's when the bursa gets inflamed. The body sends certain cells into that area to help fight the inflammatory cells get in there, but then other cells get in there. Hey, it needs to be cleaned up in there, and so inflammation stays longer than it should because it's constantly in there rubbing and grinding at the wrong angle in an up to do the things that you're doing. And so that's how arthritis starts. That's how you end up with a degenerative hip, right? Arthritis and degenerative hip just don't come out of nowhere. They're a gradual thing that happens over time, through misalignment and wear and tear. Okay. And so other symptoms like SI joint pain, that's where the pelvis, the muscles attached to the pelvis here, yep, that ilium, and in between that and the sacrum, there's a very small joint in there and there's not a lot of movement. But what happens when the pelvis is out of alignment, one side is higher than the other because the muscles on that one side are shorter and tighter and lifting the pelvis up. Or let's say your pelvis is one side is tipped forward or tipped backwards more than the other due to the muscles being shorter or tighter in one direction, right? It's going to shift that SI joint and kind of it's going to feel jammed or stuck or those are kind of the words that people say achy, like, oh, I just feel like I just want to push my finger in there, that kind of thing. So that's like common with sacroiliac pain. Um, yeah, I mean, you can tear all kinds of tissues and ligaments and tendons, in the joints. And the bursitis, that's inflammation of the bursa. But all joints have a fluid-filled sac. But if they're not in the right proper range of motion functionally and in alignment to do their proper job, then it's gonna, squeeze onto that bursa sac and push and rub and grind and irritate and inflame, right? So that's how bursitis can get going and get out of control and get into an inflammatory response. And then IT band glute pain, like a lot of times people will have really over tight, overworked glute muscles, and then it really tightens down the pelvic position, and the surrounding muscles start compensating. And you could stretch your glute muscles and your quads forever, or try to bend over and touch your toes, but you haven't in 50 years. But it's because you're not really treating, the root cause. You're just treating, okay, well, it feels good if I stretch, but I never touch my toes, or, I just have to keep stretching, but it doesn't really feel good. Like it doesn't last longer than, a few hours. Well, you've got to really look at, well, why do you keep overusing that muscle? Why do you have to keep trying to stretch it? Why is it overworking? Why is it overdoing its job? What else do we need to look at in this system? Which brings us to this perfect slide about the body is connected, right? Your hip bones are in there, connected to your spine, right? Holding up the weight of all of your organs, your torso, your shoulder girdle, the weight of your head and neck. Okay. So your pelvic girdle is your foundation of the body, and it's where your center of gravity is centered, right 2 inches below your belly button, in the middle of your pelvis. So if your center of gravity is off due to muscular misalignment, pulling the bones out of alignment, then your balance is off. Okay. And so what is good balance? Good balance is, okay, well, when we stand up and we look in the mirror, we want to see shoulders that are level and equal, right versus left, right? And a head that sits in between the two shoulders, not with a head tilt, right? A pelvis that's level and knees that point straight ahead. Underneath the hip socket, right? Right underneath where that thigh bone joins to the hip bone, we want those knees to lay right underneath that. And then underneath those straight knees, we want straight feet that point straight ahead. Well, what is a straight foot position? Most people walk around with duck feet, right? So a straight foot position is the space between your second and third toe in the middle of your heel on a straight line. So, when you're looking in the mirror and we're going to do an evaluation of ourselves here in a little bit. This is what you want to keep in mind as how has your body deviated over time? What accidents, injuries, habits, lifestyle, sports, how have you created a posture over time that has deviated from, a functional position? And where can we get clues when we look at our posture in the mirror and in the posture photos when we take them of our clients, every 3 sessions? We look at the clues and we say, oh gosh, like here's the habit, here's the pattern, here's what's happening, here's the imbalances, here's the muscles that are compensating. And then, we're going to be correcting that with exercises to help change that alignment back to this original design again. So side view, you've got ears, shoulder, hips, knees, and ankles. Again, pelvis is level, right? From front to back. It's not tucked under with your butt tucked under, right? It's not tipped forward so that your belly hangs over your belt loop, and you have a big curve in your arch in your low back. Your shoulders are underneath your ears and right above the middle of your pelvis. You don't have shoulders that are rounded forward and the head pushes forward, right? So then we've got the knees directly under the ear, the shoulder, the hip, the knees and the ankles, and then the elbow and the wrist lie on that line too. You know, today's technology does not lend to very good posture. And it's a sad story for the hips because we sit on them. They're short, they're tight, they don't get open. Your hip muscles don't get engaged, your glute muscles don't get engaged, and all of the like the largest muscles in your body attach at that torso pelvic region. So, you know, it's a big recipe for pain.
So we'll give this is a chance for you all to practice what we just talked about. So got a real life person here who's you
In
know,
pain, just what we were talking about.
some pain and some posture issues, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to see what you can see. So just comparing this to, you know, this picture, what looks different? So go ahead and you can unmute yourself or just type it in the chat, but what's one or two things that jump out at you that looks different about his posture compared to the ideal we just described?
Or have you seen this type of posture when you look in the mirror at yourself? Does it look familiar?
All right, what do we see? Start
Mhm.
calling on people.
His body's leaning forward. Yes, it looks familiar. Thank you for being brave there. Can anybody predict where his pain might be? Like if you looked at this posture and you said, oh my God, he must have pain if he stands like that. I bet he has pain here. Where would you say he has pain? Right hip higher. Yes, Michael. Left hip. Lower.
Neck.
Neck. Yeah. If he doesn't, he's gonna. And that's the thing is like, you know, pain starts to compound over time. It started with a misalignment in the pelvis, and yeah, you've got a hip injury and you've got hip pain, and then but your body compensates, and then oh now you have neck pain, shoulder pain. You know, if you don't address it, it's just going to keep moving and compensating and adding and subtracting. So, because the body wants to be balanced and it's trying to figure it out. We're the only upright biped on the planet. So we defy gravity in miraculous ways. I've seen it. You wouldn't believe it.
So his body's shifting to the left is where he's forward. So you can look at how far his ear is supposed to be on that line, remember? So you can see almost his entire head is in front of the line. So yeah, and this is why we have to look at the whole body too, because most people will see that and say, oh yeah, his head's forward. So therefore we need to do chin tucks and, you know, strengthen the neck, and his neck is the problem. Well, looking at the rest of his body, we can see it's really coming from his lower body. His hips are in front of where they should be as well. They're pushed forward, so that just brings his body with it. So once again, as Kelly said, the hips are kind of the foundation. I mean, obviously your feet are at the very bottom, so they're really important too, but your pelvis kind of controls everything. It's like it controls how your legs move, and then it supports and, you know, foundation for your spine and everything above it. So
it's the foundation that your house sits on and that your locomotors run underneath. That's how I like to look at it. So if the foundation of your house isn't set straight, there's going to be problems. Middle up, bottom down. You're going to compensate all around it. And we'll get to Debbie's question too about chiropractic treatments and how they're different than Egoscue too. So let's talk about it right now. So if we went in and we adjusted this person as a chiropractor, right? And then he's going to go back to his lifestyle and his activity levels and the sports that he plays. So in a week, you know, he might have the same posture photos as he does today, whether he had the adjustments or not, because he didn't necessarily change his lifestyle that created the muscular imbalance that he came in for, right? But if he starts doing the Egoscue exercises on a daily basis consistently, he's going to change that muscular system imbalance every single day and retrain it and reset it and look like this. So when you do your exercises every day or consistently on a regular basis, week to week, month to month, year in and year out, you're in control. right? You have the tools. You're empowered with the exercises and the tools for a lifetime to keep your body tuned up and in alignment, right? So, not saying that we don't need the chiropractors anymore or acupuncturists or massage therapists, but maybe you're going to make their job a little bit easier and you don't have to go as often because, hey, you're doing the hard work at home by, training the muscles to hold the bones in position so that they're more stable, more functional, and you can be more active.
Yeah.
That's really our approach and how it's different.
So here's the same guy a couple months later. Now he's got a shirt on, but other than that, what what's different? What do we see that improved? Here's before. His head's in line, right, from the side, so his ears touching the line now. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, his ears are over his hips. I like that.
Right. Yeah,
He
huge.
looks, he just looks so much younger because he's lined up the way he should be. I mean, he just looks even everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't you think it would be just feel better? Release so much more energy back into the body to focus, to function, to just get along in life every day, just doing normal things, right? So it's really hard on the body energetically to be out of alignment and work that way mechanically all day long and just do basic tasks. So that's why fatigue and a lot of things happen. But when you get into alignment, it frees up a lot of energy in the body to expend on the things that you really love and like. And man, you feel better doing it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you have to think of it as a whole systems approach too, not just okay, well, muscles tell bones what to do, and I'm going to get into alignment. But remember, your organs are housed in there. How do you think your heart beats very well with your shoulders grounded forward? And how much can your lungs expand when you breathe if your head's in forward of the gravity line and your shoulders are rounded? Are you able to get that oxygen to the tissues? Do you get lightheaded when you stand up? There's lots of symptoms and lots of things that go along with alignment being good and posture being good. Overall, it changes how your digestion works, your genital tract, your respiratory, your circulatory. I mean, all those things come into play because we live in a gravity field environment. Like, we can't cheat that. We can't change that. And so there's certain rules in the environment that we live in. And trust me, a lot of us try to defy them a lot of our day, a lot of the time. So,
So I'll show a couple other before and afters here, just some case studies. This is a couple of my clients, and both these people had hip problems. It was originally why they came in. And so this client here on the left, this is one of my favorite stories because she was told she needed a hip replacement. She had, I forget which side, but one of her hips was causing her issues. She could barely, sitting was the problem. Like anytime she was in the car for more than an hour, it was really hard to stand up and she'd be sore for hours, and it was a mess. So when we started working together, you can see the changes that happen were primarily in her upper body. Like, look at how rounded her upper back is, this kind of curving forward here, the shoulders, the head is forward of the line. So really that's all that changed. Was we worked a lot on her upper back position and straightening that out so that her head, her shoulders, her spine are more centered over her hips and not pushing forward like that. And just by making those changes in her upper body, she was able to, her hips started feeling better. And over time, a matter of weeks, it eventually got to the point where she didn't have hip pain anymore. So it's just pretty amazing that for her, at least, her hip pain was actually simply caused by her upper back position. So it's not like that for everybody, but it's pretty common actually, especially with hips. So
I tell people when they look at pictures like this, or they look at their postures in the mirror, or when we take your posture photos here in the clinic, when your first session, over exaggerate this woman's posture, or your own posture and walk around like that and feel where the pressure goes in your body and like the tension and how heavy it is, right? And then when we do some exercises, you're going to feel the difference, walking around with those shoulders back and down and in a better posture position. You can feel the difference between walking like this and over exaggerating it, and then standing up and walking around, and how much lighter and how much more range of motion and how much freer of movement you are.
This woman on the right also had some hip issues and back. Well, she had a pain in a few different areas, but I love her story because she was a photographer and a blogger, in her 70s. I think she was close to 80 at the time. And she loved being out in nature. Yeah. So, but the hikes were starting to get harder on her and her joints were hurting more, and she was starting to not be able to do as much outdoors on her feet like she wanted to. So before, how she looked when she came in, and then of course after doing our 8-session program, this is how much better she looked, because now shoulders, her head, even the curve in her spine right here, like Kelly was talking about, how the pelvis can tip too far forward or too far backwards. Hers was kind of tipped backwards, so she kind of lost some of that curve in her low back, and her hips were not functioning properly. So and I think she looks a lot better too, right? I mean, this just looks younger, healthier, more energetic. Right here, you can tell she's just looks kind of depressed. We can't see her face. I blurred out her face, but you can imagine how she feels here. But so it's just, and that's really what we're all about, is helping people get back to enjoying their life, right? Being able to do the things they love to do. That's really the ultimate goal. Pain
Doing
is
better, looking better, moving better.
is just a limitation keeping you from living what you should
As
be.
you get older, you don't want your limitations to get greater and greater. You want them to get less and less. And that's what we're committed to doing.
So here's a little more extreme example, but I like it because it shows just how even with extreme postures like this lady, it's never too late, right? In fact, sometimes these really extreme postures have the most to gain, right? So sometimes the improvement is more dramatic because they're just so bent over to begin with. But yeah, I mean, think about, just imagine, look at how short the distance is between her shoulders and her pelvis now. It's just so compressed on her back, her organs, her chest. I mean, everything is just suffering in there. So
imagine her trying to walk up the stairs or climb a hill. Like, her cardiovascular health would be very compromised here.
And it's really just there was nothing wrong. You could look at that and think, well, it's so bad, maybe there's just something wrong with her spine, right? Maybe it was genetic or some condition, right? Well, obviously not.
Osteoporosis, yeah. Osteopenia.
We just changed it, right? In a relatively short amount of time, her body could change, and still not perfect, right? But it's a whole lot better than it was. So it just shows that it's never really too late. So
and that's the truth. I think that's the biggest question. Everybody, well, what about me and my story and my situation and my accident, my injury, my this? Can you help this? Can you help that? Can you help me? Well, my answer to that is always, if you have muscles, there's hope, and you can help yourself by doing the exercises and working with one of us. Absolutely. If you have muscles, great. I'm happy to work with you. If you don't have any muscles, then I can't help you.
This is just really simply talking about hips, a big, we won't go into much detail, but it basically is showing how, when you bend over to something as simple as bending over to touch the floor or touch your toes, primarily, I mean, a lot of things are going on there. The spine has to move, but most importantly, that the foundation, the pelvis has to move. That the two pelvis bones we saw earlier, they have to tip forward over that. If this is your leg, you've got the ball, here's the socket. So the pelvis has to be able to rotate over that femur head. And if it doesn't, it's kind of like in this picture, she goes a little bit, but then the rest of the movement is all coming from her upper back, has to round, and she's reaching with her hands because she's not moving down here. Her hips not moving, it's just her back. So we change that, we get the hips to do what they're supposed to do. We get the back to do what it's supposed to do. And then, you get a much better result. So a lot of times people blame this on tight hamstrings, which is just one, that's just one of the many muscles involved here. So yeah, your hamstrings may feel tight, but it's usually because pelvis isn't able to move, and maybe because your upper back isn't able to move, or it's over tight and kind of locked in that flexed position. So once again, we kind of take the full body approach. We don't just stretch out your hamstrings, right? So this is a result of improving the posture, and then that function is restored. So
I've had many people, in particular one guy in a karate studio that hadn't touched his toes in 48 years. And in front of the entire workshop class that we were giving, and I was with me that day, we had him do one Egoscue exercise for 3 to 5 minutes, and then he touched his toes and he started crying in front of the entire class. It was pretty miraculous. But that one exercise changed his pelvis in relationship to his spine position, in relationship to his shoulder position. And when they all started working as a unit, guess what? Down he went, and he was able to touch his toes. And it was like such an amazing, result. Just happened to be on a bigger stage. And then just one-on-one here in the office.
all right, so this is the interactive portion. Kelly, do you want to take us through a little self-assessment if everybody wants to?
Yes. Okay. So if you can, stand up, and I want you to take your shoes off if you have them on, slip them off if it's easy to do, right? Because we're gonna get into the kinesthetic awareness of our body, which is a huge thing that we teach in Egoscue. We know if you're mindful and present and you're in your body and you're listening and you're asking questions, and you're gonna hear some things that you need to know about your body and how to get it well. Okay. So when you're standing and you just kind of close your eyes, or if it's not comfortable to close your eyes, or you can hold on to something and close your eyes, it's fine. Put your center of awareness into the bottom of your feet and tell me, well, where is your weight distribution in your feet? You can write it in the chat, or you can write it down on a piece of paper. Just keep it in your mind, right? Is your weight more centered in one foot versus the other, right versus left? Is it inside edge to outside edge? Is it heavier on the inside edge or the outside edge?
Outside.
Is it more in the front, in the toes, or in the back, in the heels? Right? Okay. And you can kind of rate yourself too, like overall in general, like how is your balance on a scale from 1 to 10? How balanced do you feel?
Yeah, are you swaying around a lot? If you close your eyes, do you have a hard time standing still?
Yeah. And do you have pain on a scale from 1 to 10? Like, do you have pain? What number is that?
Morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got some people in the chat saying someone feels it more on the outside, someone feels even on the balls and the heels. Does anybody feel something different on the right foot compared to their left foot? No right or wrong answer here. We're just looking for clues.
Yeah, no. And if you're having a hard time figuring it out, this is your first chance to tune in, turn on, and tap in. Welcome to your body, because it's important to get in there and know what the heck's going on so that you can be empowered with the knowledge of your own body and help you help yourself and help us as practitioners help you. It's because we work together with you to write the program that's best for your body and your situation. It's very individual. It's not a one size fits all. Okay. So this is kind of the first step in helping you really get in and get curious and help get that understanding about, well, what is it that my body needs? What is going on? Get curious in there. Okay.
So make a mental note of what you feel right now, because we'll check it again in a couple minutes.
All right. And then you want to go through the exercises here? You want to put those up on the screen, or do you want me just to go through them?
Yeah, why don't you just go through them
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So we're going to stand with our feet completely straight, like I showed you in that little picture of the guy, right? You're going to stand with those feet hip width and parallel. Hip width means a tight double fist, right? If you put that between your feet, that tight two double fists, that's going to be 6 inches. That's going to be hip width. You can kind of eyeball it, or if you can get down there, go for it. So feet straight, pointed straight ahead. And then we are going to do what's called a golf grip. So you're going to bend at the second knuckle and have your thumbs sticking out to the side, right? And you're going to take, glasses are a little hard to do this with. You're going to take that second knuckle and you're going to put it right onto your temples. And you're going to use your temples as like a rocking chair dock. You're going to go from second knuckle to first knuckle, and you're going to bring your elbows together, touching, open and close. And you see how I'm keeping my wrists nice and straight. I'm not letting them bend and twist and turn, right? It's as if I have a wrist brace on, and I'm just rocking from second knuckle to first knuckle, second knuckle to first knuckle, right over my temple. And if you can take a big deep breath, inhale, open up, exhale as you come together. Try to get those points equally touching, not one higher than the other, right? And then on the side view, your elbow should be just level with your shoulder. You don't want the arm down too far, up too far towards your nose, okay? Yeah. And how many people are already tired? Feel like their arms are going to fall off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, 100 more. Keep going. Just kidding. All right. Arms down at your sides, right? That's the basic hinge function of the shoulder. The shoulder has lots of range of motion, but one thing that it does do is hinge. And so that's a really important function of the shoulder to be able to do posturally, functionally. Okay. Now let's do arm circles. So again, feet pointed straight ahead. Okay. And you're going to do the same exact golf grip again. You're going to golf grip, lock the elbows, take the arms shoulder height, and you're going to imagine you have a little rubber ball between your shoulder blades, and you're going to pinch that rubber ball and hold it. Don't drop it. And you're going to circle those arms. My thumbs are forward. My circles are going forward. And you want to go salad plate size. That's what I like to say, salad plate size. And you're going to rock fast enough that your body, or excuse me, you're going to circle fast enough that your body rocks a little bit back and forth, okay? Okay, good. Keep holding that ball between your shoulder blades. Pinch it down and together, hold that ball. And arms down. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to do palms to the ceiling, thumbs backwards. And we're going to keep pinching that ball between our shoulder blades. Don't drop it. And we're going to go fast enough that your body's going to rock. You tell everybody you rocked it today with the Egoscue. Awesome. Yep. Okay, at least 20 more here. All right, and then down. All right, one more exercise. We're working to change that upper body position and how it relates to the spine and the pelvis, okay?
Okay.
You already kind of feel some warmness, some waking up of some muscles that have been asleep for a while or haven't really been doing their job properly, right? So interlace your fingers like this. Everybody can see me there. And you're gonna take those arms up above your head, shoulders out of your ears, okay? I'm a little dark in the screen. Sorry about that. I have a little glare overhead here, but Zach's pretty clear in his. So lock those elbows, keep your shoulders out of your ears, and then look up towards your hands. Now, it's not about trying to go as far back as you possibly can, right? And arching your back. No, no, no. It's about shoulders out of the ears, down and together with the shoulder blades, lock the elbows, go as far back as you can, and then look up. And you should feel it kind of right maybe in the middle of that upper back. Feet straight, hip width, parallel, underneath.
Make sure you're not bending backwards either. Don't lean back. So just keep your spine straight.
And if it hurts to do this with your hands, you can always do this as well. One hand on top of the other and push up. Okay. All right. Come on down. Now, those are basic exercises that, remind our body of basic function. A functional body should be able to do anything, right? So if you're having trouble with these, it just means, hey, you're not, posture isn't quite in enough alignment yet in order to do these ones. So you need easier ones first, and then you'll work up to these ones that are harder. Doing exercises in a standing position is the hardest way to do it. So let's make sure we stand up again and let's assess our posture again. See if there's any shifts or changes. Did we move any mountains? Where's your weight distribution in your feet now? What's your pain number now? Your pain level from compared to before, and how is your balance 1 to 10 compared to before?
Better.
Better.
Mhm.
Great.
Not leaning to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And is it easier to take a deep breath?
Yes, totally.
How does your nervous system feel? Do you feel like less stressed, less worried, less anxious, less, do you feel more balanced in general?
Yeah.
I feel like everybody just got like really calm.
People in the
On the
chat.
screen. Everybody like settled down. Yeah, not that you were all going wild, but I just sense that. I feel that. Yeah.
Centered, more centered. Weight feels more even on ball and heel, more even on
Great.
leg.
Yeah.
That's good.
And those are, like I said, 3 really basic ones, right? And there's something to start with. But if you did those and you perfected them, you got them the straightest you could, the best you can, right? You worked on the form and the function and all the things that we taught you in this video. Keep watching the video every day, right? And do them 2 or 3 times a day. Boy, how is your posture going to change over time? How is that going to affect, your breathing, your balance, your everything overall in general? It can make a big difference. Even just 3 exercises. I do these exercises throughout my day. I sort of say I sprinkle them like glitter. I do Egoscue anytime, anywhere. I do not subscribe to suffering. So suffering is optional in my world. If I feel anything in my body, I address it immediately with Egoscue. I don't run to the pain pill. I don't run to the XYZ. I just do the exercises and get rid of it because I just don't tolerate it anymore after 20 years. and I have the tools, right? So that's what we're here to teach you. And these are your beginning tools.
Yeah. So
Feel free to use them.
yes.
And like I said, if they're not the right ones for you, if you thought, oh boy, those were really challenging, I can do them, but I'm going to have to do less. I'm going to have to modify those, do a few repetitions and just a little bit of the day and then work up. That's great. There's no shame in the modify game. Slowly work your way up over time. And then if they didn't work for you and maybe they caused some tension or tightness or pain or discomfort, then you're just not ready for those ones yet. But we want to get you to that point. So make sure if you couldn't do them, you reach out and find out which ones you can do to get started. Don't sit in silence and suffer. That's not going to get you where you want to go. Oh, can you go back 1 slide, Zach? Oh, that's just a little picture. Yeah.
We're recording this too, so we'll send you the recording.
Oh yeah, you'll get the recording and then we're going to post it on YouTube so you can go back and watch those 3. And I mean, those are kind of standard Egoscue exercises. You can find those online anywhere.
Yeah, those were, there's, well, as we'll talk here, there's lots of other options. We just tried to give you guys a sample, something that we could do in a few minutes and feel some change, right? But
we have over 500 exercises in the Egoscue method, and we modify them and tailor them to the individual. So these are 3 of 500. Yeah. So yeah. And I think it's important to say too that, if 5 people the same age, same weight, same height, same pain, they all have hip pain, come in for Egoscue exercises, they don't all get the same program because they haven't all done the same thing in their life, right? Like Joe was a construction worker and Becky was a lawyer and, Tom was a dentist, and they all did posturally different things. So their pain is different based on their posture position. So we're treating their posture and their alignment and their imbalances based on their lifestyle and their habits, not their profession, not their pain, not how they ended up getting here. Right. So I think that's important to say.
So there's kind of, we're wrapping up here, and I just wanted to make sure you all had some resources now moving forward with what you can do next. So as we finish this up, and maybe you're still skeptical, which is totally fine. You know, I was when I first learned about it, right? It took me a while. It took me having my own pain before I actually did
Mhm.
something about
Pain's a
it.
good motivator.
Yeah. But if you want to learn more, I recommend the book Pain Free. You can just Google that, Pain Free Egoscue. He wrote several books, but this is the most popular one, and it's really easy to use. It's got a chapter dedicated to each body part, so you can go to the hip chapter, or if you have pain somewhere else, you can go to the chapter corresponding to that. Get some basic exercises to start changing your posture and relieving your pain. So just remember, it's a book. It's not going to be as tailored as working with an actual human in real time, right? But
Yeah.
but it's
If you're reading the book and you're trying to do the exercises and you feel more confused or not sure what to do, or if you're doing them right, it just brings up a whole bunch of more questions, please give us a call. That's the number one thing people say when they call. I have the book, I've had the book, I'm doing the book. I don't know where to start. I'm not sure what to do or what's right for me. I need something more specific to me. So if you open the book and you start with that, just call. Don't wait.
Yeah, so you can reach out to us. We're offering people here a free consultation or a posture evaluation, where we'll basically take your pictures, just like the photos that we've looked at before, put some lines on there so you can see better where your joints are stacking up or where they're not. We can talk about how your pain's related to your posture, what might be causing that. So just to help you understand like what's going on, because that's the first step, right? We need to figure out the why of your pain if we want to solve it, right? So if you just like to talk to us or learn some more about your body, happy to do that. And ultimately, if you really want to take the next step of getting out of pain and doing something about it to change your body, change your life like these people did, then we'd be happy to help you along that process. So we offer a couple different packages. We'll just describe really quickly what that looks like. Here's the breakdown of the costs. We have two different options there, but basically we always start with the assessment. We'll take the photos. We also can look at your gait, so we look at how you walk and how you move and your balance and all those things. And once we know what's causing your pain, then we'll be able to give you the right exercises to begin to change that. So as Kelly said, there's hundreds of exercises, so it's going to be tailored specifically to your body, your problems, your strengths and weaknesses. But it's going to change over time, because your body, you're going to be doing these exercises, and what was hard today isn't going to be hard anymore, or most likely will be easier in a week, right? So if you want to progress and continue to change, the exercises will tend to change. Maybe some stuff works better than others for you.
And your goals, your goals, like whatever your goals are, we're going to match your program to your goals to get you straighter and stronger and able to do the functional things that you want to be able to do, that you had to let go of. I used to golf, but now I walk. Well, I used to walk and now I have to swim. I used to run, but now I walk, or all the things. And now I bike.
Yeah, so it takes time, but most of those transformations that we saw were happening in within 8 to 16 sessions. And most people will feel some results right away, right? But depending on how severe things are, it's going to take time for your body to fully change. But you should expect to feel some kind of positive change right away. Just like today, when we doing a three simple shoulder exercises, most people felt some difference all the way down to their feet, right? So it'll change quickly, but to making it last, that's where the consistency of doing your exercises each day, meeting with your therapist, typically on a weekly basis, at least
Building the habit. Yep.
creating that
And
habit.
learning the skills.
And then once your pain is under control and you're feeling better, your posture is better, then it's about strengthening. We got to make it last. So you want to be stronger so that you can not just walk pain free, but you want to run pain free, or you want to hike or whatever it is. So that's where those later sessions we start getting into the strengthening, and then keeping you
Back
there.
to your workouts, you're back to your sport, you're back to your, yeah. I always say you have to build positive posture endurance. you have to be able to hold your good posture longer, and that takes strength. The alignment has to be set first, and then you've got to build the strength on top of the alignment in order to hold it longer, to do the more complex body movements and sports and activities that a body's designed to do.
So if you want to do that and take advantage of it soon, because we're only offering that 10% discount for you guys for the next week. So, if the schedule doesn't work, that you can't come in the next week, that's okay. But just at least call us and get on the schedule to reserve your spot in the next week so you can get that deal. So, and there's our contact info, and we'll be emailing this out either later today or tomorrow as well. But all right, questions. What?
Open it up. Make sure that we don't have anybody with a last burning question that didn't get answered. And was it Michael, right? Did you get your question answered? Where did he go? About the back sprain, right?
Well, I understand that it's not just, one spot that's isolated, that's in pain by itself and not being affected by other body issues. I understand the muscle part. I understand that my discs are degenerated, if that's a correct word, over the years, and that's exacerbating the issue I have. And just leaning over a box, doing the very incorrect lifting method, pulled my muscle out again.
Yeah.
And
It's the body that you took to the event.
And my body just doesn't forgive me for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And I wake up in the morning and it's like my lower back's on fire laterally. And it just lasts all morning long.
I'm so sorry that you've been suffering with that.
Yeah, it's been 6 weeks like this now.
Well, what did you think about today? Did you think that there might be some hope?
Well, I was surprised, impressed that just doing those exercises that initially when I stood with my eyes closed, most of the weight was on my right heel. And without you guys asking how I felt differently, I noticed immediately that my weight was equally distributed on the balls and the heel of both of my feet. And I was like, wow, that's significantly different. And I felt, if you want to call it stacking, my entire body felt equally stacked and my head felt taller, and there was nothing feeling out of disjointed, like I was like blocks stacked on each other, trying to stay upright.
Well, that's miraculous. That's wonderful. So I'll ask you again, do you think there's hope?
Well, maybe.
I hear a little bit of skepticism in there still, Zach.
Well, I put my body through my lifespan. There is hope. Everything you said rings true in terms of practice makes more better. So
and one of my biggest mottos is that there's so many different modalities out there, so many things that you can do. But how do you know the right one for you?
Yeah, I've done a lot of them and they just don't seem to work at this point.
Yeah. How do you know when it's the right one for you? What's the number one thing that has to go first? Anybody?
You have to get pain relief.
Yeah. You got to have some change. You got to feel the change. You got to feel the results. You got to feel the difference, right? Which Michael did, but it has to make sense. Like, if it doesn't make sense and it seems like it's too good to be true, I don't know. But if it makes sense and you're in alignment with like what it is that you're doing and they're saying, and the teachings and the education, the information that's coming at you, then you're in the right place at the right time.
And if you have done it, as someone said, you'll get the relief, right? That's the ultimate sign.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding. If you do it and it works,
Yep.
Obviously.
Exactly.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm Barbara. I
Yep,
live in Boise and I'm wondering, do they have any kind of clinic here in Boise?
They don't, no, but we work remotely all over the world.
Okay,
Let's talk about
Yeah.
that. Zoom is.
And we can do amazing things over video. I actually prefer working sometimes in video because I can see into your world. I know what you have in your house and where you're going to do your exercises and what props you're going to that and I can direct you and tell you where to go and what to do and how to do it just right at your house. I don't get to go home with my clients
Right.
that come in person. So I kind of like online for various reasons.
I have a bad right hip. I've had a hip replacement on my left hip and I have scoliosis and I have sciatic nerve pain. I have really bad arthritis in my feet and neuropathy, but I don't want to have
Another hip replacement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I like to avoid that.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure your movement is pretty compromised. Like you have a lot of limitations right now, I'm assuming.
Right, yeah. And my balance is off, but just today doing the exercise we did, I could feel that my balance was better.
Wonderful. Yeah. And any of those exercises that we did today, you can do sitting. You don't even have to do them standing too. So you can still get a benefit from doing them sitting or standing or laying on your back. The arm circles you can't do on your back, but the elbow curls and the overhead extension you can.
My husband was in the program, and so we have the book. And
Oh,
I
okay.
lay on the floor and put my
You're
knees
doing
up.
the static back. Mhm.
I do those exercises. Yeah.
Great. And how do you feel after you do those exercises out of the book?
Oh, better. It's just
Oh, I love
like
that.
trying to get up. It's like
Yeah.
it's-
Because motion is lotion and you've got to keep moving. Your body is a movement machine. And if you don't move it properly and you don't keep it aligned, it is going to break down on the side of the road. So, and then your issues compound. So one hip, remember, if I were to throw a brick at you right now and injure you on your right foot, right, you're going to transfer the weight and limp in order to heal that foot that I threw the brick at, right?
right.
So when you had that other imbalance before, yeah, you wore down the one hip, had it replaced, but you were compensating with all the other muscles on the other side. Now that hip's worn down and the spine's out of position and you have all these other pains traveling all over the body. Well, that's because of the original issue to begin with, just never got flushed out, never got reset, never got realigned.
Mhm.
And so over time, it compounds, the compensations get stronger and more intense and more throughout the body. But I'm very, very encouraged that one, you had results today, two, you're getting some stuff out of the book. It just sounds like you need some more specific tailored stuff specifically to you.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so I would highly encourage you to call either Zach or I and get your posture photos taken and let's talk about getting a personalized plan for you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.